I'm ready. Okay. Are we on time? I'm right on time. Yeah! Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Josh Marpet. I'll be your presenter for this afternoon. Please keep your hands and arms inside the vehicle at all times. Supplies are limited. Act now. Your mileage may vary. All right. This is a talk about multicellular security. What you see on screen right now is me pimping my company, SecureWV. We have a GRC Plus tool is all I'm going to say about it. But you'll get into the thick of why I am speaking about the topic I am, because you realize that I work for a company that does interesting things in compliance, maturity, and all sorts of stuff. All right, continuous compliance, multicellular security. Slow down, or this will be a 5-minute talk. Here's the concept. It's actually pretty simple. We all work together. Why do we not trust one another? I'll expand on that. First, and most importantly, who is this dude? I am the Chief Compliance Officer for SecureWV. I'm an INS faculty member. INS is the Institute of Applied Network Security. If you know Gartner, they're a Gartner competitor. Gartner hates us because we're better than them. It's actually true. And they really, really, really hate us. I'm not an INS employee, I'm an INS contractor. All of the faculty members are contractors. We literally will turn off the recording to give the actual truth of what we're talking about. So I'll tell them that the company XYZ sucks and why, and give them all the back channel. So people love us and Gartner hates us because they act from a script. Don't tell them I said that. I'm an ACI learning instructor. Next week I'm teaching a class to the FDIC on how to audit. Okay, how to audit, do IT and cybersecurity audit in various forms. I'm one of the instructors for the FDIC through ACI. I'm a contributor for several standards. I write standards. That's known as being a masochist. Okay? I volunteered to help with CMMC. That is the Department of Defense standard for all of the Department of Defense contractors, all 300,000 of them. If you can imagine dealing with 300,000 crying children that don't understand why you have rules, this is CMMC. Okay? SPDX is a software bill of materials standard. That will be important. I will explain why later. But software bill of materials, does anybody here know what a software bill of material is? Great, what is it?
It's your list of all the crap that you throw into your software that you copy and paste from one set of software to another.
That you're aware of.
That you're aware of, yes! I worked with the Linux Foundation on SPDX. There's, for software bill of materials, the biggest standards are SPDX, Cyclone DX, and SWID tags. SWID tags are not really used anymore, but Cyclone DX, SPDX is like the formal one. They've got a full ISO standard. It's really cool. I'm really proud of that. Cyclone DX is the one that people use because they actually integrate with things, details. And the SBOM, the software bill of materials, is a really important part of this because it's a way that if you sell things to him, he can know what's in your software, so long as you're not lying. Because what's the atomic unit of software? The character, the line of code, the library? What if you had 3 libraries that you hadn't updated in a year and wrote a library that encompassed them, and in your SBOM you just put the encompassing library in, and forgot to mention that if you dug one layer deeper, there's 3 libraries you haven't updated. Oops. So I learned words working on SPDX, canonicalization and serialization of software, and the reason I can say them and they fly off my tongue so easily is because we spent 3 weeks screaming at each other about them. And the idea here is that you have to understand that if you can't get it down to the atomic unit of software, it's not actually true. And along with that is versioning, okay? How many different version numbers can a piece of software have? And I'm not talking about, go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. I'm saying like she writes a piece of software, he forks that software, she writes a hotfix for his piece of software, she likes the hotfix and rolls the whole thing up into a new patch. We've now got the same lines of code in 3 or 4 different version numbers, don't we? That's serialization. What's that?
So I feel like I'm the winner of this scenario.
Yeah. So that's serialization. Canonicalization, by the way, is what's the atomic unit of software, just FYI. I'm a podcaster on Paul's Security Weekly and Security Weekly News. I'm a co-host, and so we're part of Security Weekly, the Cyber Risk Alliance. We have about 160, between the 2 shows that I'm on, we have about 160,000 weekly viewers. I run a conference, BSides Delaware, which is happening November 14th and 15th up in Newark, Delaware. If anybody wants to come, you're more than welcome. We'd love to have you. It's free. Don't worry, it's pretty cheap. And $15 or $20 ahead of time and like free to walk in. So it's really, we do that because government workers can get in for free. It's tough for them to spend money on a conference, especially these days. And we get the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, the Federal Reserve Bank, postal inspectors, we get everybody. So it's nice. If you like conferences, this one is fantastic, by the way. I've enjoyed the hell out of this conference. But we also have the Wireless Village, the Aerospace Village, the Quantum Village, if you really want to talk about quantum decryption. We have a Lockpick Village and 2 tracks of talks, and it's a lot of fun. Normally, we are a family-friendly conference. We got told 3 weeks ago that we can't have kids there this year, which pisses me off, because we like to be the family-friendly, inclusive conference. We normally have Spawn Camp. We train the kids in electronics and how to destroy your parents. Can't do it this year. And I'm also a dad. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, which is why I haven't been speaking for a few years. Speaking very infrequently. Now that they're a little bit older, I'm going to start bringing them to conferences and letting them run rampant through these conferences. Yes. And speaking a bit more, so I'm very happy about that. But I stay busy, as you might have told. This is me without caffeine. I don't do caffeine, by the way. Just FYI. Okay, so this is not my company's opinions. My bosses agree with me in a lot of this, but this is all mine, just to be clear, okay? Don't blame my company, don't yell at my company, don't yell at me, and if you really are angry with me, I will happily buy you a beer or a scotch and we can talk. All right, this is security. Don't you agree? Now this is physical security, but if you were here 20 years ago, who was in this business, in IT or security or anything 20 years ago? All right, would you agree with me that security was castle wall, castle moat, castle gate, portcullis, all right? Wrapped around your company, and you came in or out through a very tightly restricted, very tightly regulated set of ways in and out, right? Cool. And that's what we call the paramecia of security. Every company was a single-celled organism, weren't they? They were complete in and of themselves. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And you had all sorts of cool stuff in your paramecia. You had all these different pieces. I'm not going to go through them. I'm not going to invoke the horror of high school biology. But it's effectively the same thing. You know, if you go from here to here, you're like, oh, it's roughly similar. This is all the castle traps and defenses that a castle had, right? Same idea? Do we agree on that? The murder holes, yes, that's a rather unpleasant choice of words. What did I do?
You didn't. No, I'm the problem. You're not the problem. I gotta get this down. You're fine.
Okay. And if you do analogies of this, look, it's a castle and it's got firewalls and there's your data center and, oh, that's so cute. Okay, but it's still a single-celled organism, and we are not single-celled anymore. We have taken those tightly controlled pathways into and out of our single-celled organism, and we have turned them into advertising superhighways and data-sharing partners. How many of you work for a company or an organization that has more than 100 data-sharing partners? Anybody that doesn't have their hand raised doesn't know or is lying. I don't care if you're yourself. You have over 100 accounts across the web, don't you? You're sharing data with. So we've put superhighways, bypassing the portcullis, the moat, the drawbridge, the gate. Just bypassing them entirely, haven't we? By the way, Gemini is awesome to generate images with. And the risk of that is variable. You may have an incredibly well locked down system. All those superhighways may have great toll booths on them and security scanners, but the first firewall rule that some idiot person puts in that says any, right? And so everybody here, their company gets a pen test, yeah? Okay. How valid is that pen test and for how long?
The day you run it.
Yeah. You're a cynic. I like you. I said that. You repeat me, sir. So risk is variable. The minute you have a single change, your risk changes. Would you agree? Yes. Okay. And the cyber insurance companies have noticed this. They really have. Although, interestingly enough, this is the first year that cyber insurance premiums have, on average, gone down by about 2%. For several years, they were going up by 300% year over year. That is bloody terrifying. So they were trying to price the risk. Does that make sense to everybody what I mean by that? Okay. Does anybody think that they were able to price the risk accurately?
Nope.
Right. However, if cyber insurance premiums are increasing because of they're trying to price the risk properly, how come they went down this year? Any guesses? I like being interactive. I hope you don't mind.
They find enough loopholes to not have to pay.
Ding. That's one reason. They write exclusions the size of Mack trucks in cyber insurance policies. The second reason is that a lot of companies actually just started self-insuring. They just started throwing money in a bank account and saying, we're not paying these ruinous premiums. We're going to throw money in a bank account and have it available to us if we have a cyber insurance incident or cyber incident. And also, that means that you're my cyber insurance company. I have an incident. You go, okay, well, you got to use this forensics company. You got to use this crisis communications company. You got to use this. And they're like, wait, you have to use them. Okay, well, I've got a $10 million policy. Oh, the incident response company's $3 million, and the crisis communications company's $2 million, and oh, you're not getting anything. So a lot of bigger companies went, screw this, we're self-insuring. Like, it makes sense, honestly. Well, so what that's doing is increasing the supply and reducing the demand, so the risk is actually priced vaguely properly if you understand the difference now. The exclusions are bad. You have to ladder your policy. By the way, do you know what laddering a policy is? Okay, so if you want $100 million of cyber insurance, the first company that you went to 10 years ago would be like, here, $100 million of cyber, no problem. Now, oh, no, 20 million is all we'll do for you. All right, go to the next one. Yeah, we'll do another 20, and another 20, and another 20, and another 20. So I fill the ladder steps with various companies, which, by the way, means I've now got 5 companies that I've got to match up all the exclusions and all the policies on, all the policy details on, which is a lot of lawyer money, right? And that's unpleasant. Another reason why they've started to self-insure. So the risk is priced, but the risk is variable. That's terrifying. And then we go, okay, whose fault is it? Because I've got a supply chain. It's her fault. I sent the data to her and she lost it. She's like, wait, I sent the data to him. He lost it. Oh, crap. Right? So we have a situation where we are diffusing liability to a certain extent and moving risk around, and I sometimes don't even know where the risk is. So can't we all just get along, sing a little kumbaya, work together? Wouldn't it be nice? It's not a Disney Channel show, okay? Let's keep going. So the reality is that supply chain is data sharing partners all over the place, some of whom are good partners, some of whom are not so good partners. How do you tell the difference? What do you do right now to tell the difference between a good partner and a bad partner? Anyone? Third-party risk management, which is done how?
Usually through a tool or an external evaluator.
You are faking it. Try again. How do you do it? What?
That's how we do it, just questionnaire.
Questionnaire. That's how it's done. Okay? You want to call BitSides security scorecard? Great. You will get a view of the outside or their external security systems, their external security posture. If somebody looks at your lawn, they may think, wow, they have their stuff together. If they go in your house, they'll be like, damn, I was wrong. Okay? The internal and external security postures can have nothing to do with each other. They can be identical, don't get me wrong, but it's entirely possible they have nothing whatsoever to do with each other. Does that make sense? So we send a questionnaire. Hey, how good is your internal security? So they lie and send it back, and that's what we depend on? Are we clinically insane? Because that's what it sounds like. We know they lie. The best vendors lie. Whether it's lying outright or lying by omission. I swear, vendor risk management is Catholic. But whether it's lying by commission or lying by omission, they lie. Is there a third one, lying by spin? Hey, Bill, you're our pastor here. Is lying by spinning the answer A lie of omission or commission? That's omission? Thank you. Okay, now we have our answer. And then you get to sprinkle the AI pixie dust on everything. Because everybody out there believes that AI is FM. I'll tell you that M stands for magic, and I'm not going to tell you what the F stands for, because I'm trying not to swear as much. But when you sprinkle the AI pixie dust, you have another problem. And I call it the nth party problem. What's the nth party problem? Well, I send my data to her. She sends it to their AI company, who is actually an AI broker for her, who's actually running the AI model. So I've got a third, fourth, and fifth party, don't I? The NTH, the nth party problem. How many layers deep does this onion go? Pretty bloody far. Does that make sense to everybody? How do I get my vendor risk management to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers deep? Even 2 or 3 layers is tough, right? So, trivia question. You have risk and you have liability. Which of them am I transferring to my vendor, and which of them can I not?
You're transferring the risk, but the liability is still yours.
That's right! If the liability is still mine, then no matter what I do, I'm still liable for the customer data that could be lost, aren't I? I'm the first one to get sued. And I depend on questionnaires. Oh boy. Okay? This nth party problem is so pervasive, and AI made it so much worse. Why? Because do you know how many of those companies are just brokers? Let me give you a few examples. Salesforce. You all know Salesforce, right? Most of you probably have used it or are using it, yes? Do you know that it's an AI broker firm? They don't have an internal model. They use, I think it's OpenAI or Anthropic's model, which means that your data, your CRM, sales, customer, whatever data, goes into Salesforce. It does a beautiful AI snap of the fingers and says, here, we've analyzed your data. You need to sell to middle-income Americans more. That's where your most amazing profits will occur. You go, that's great. You just gave all your customer data to a company that has no agreement with you. That's awkward. But AI companies are so secure. Okay, I'll let you think that. And it's a problem. Most of the AI companies out there, whether they're an established SaaS app, all of them have been working on building AI into their systems, whether it's a startup, all of whom are using AI, because if you don't use AI, you're going to get left behind in the dust, right? 90% of them are using somebody else's model. Does that make sense? That's terrifying. Okay, but let's talk about value chains. Okay, we talked about supply chain. Is there a difference between a supply chain and a value chain? A little bit. It's kind of a technical difference. A supply chain is where you get your things from that you then sell to somebody else potentially, right? A value chain is all the companies that add value to my data, to some other data, to some piece of a product or whatever, all right? It's a tiny technical difference, but I like using the word value chain. It's a little bit more inclusive of ways that we can interact with other companies, okay? I've got a value chain. I've got AI, I've got AI brokers, I've got other companies, I've got other customers of these companies that maybe I have relationships with, they enrich my data or whatever, but they're in my value chain. Make sense to everybody? Cool. So if I have a value chain, it's absolutely correct that every single one of those companies needs all of their own security. They need their own EDR, their own SOC. They need their own pen test team. They need their own red team and blue team. They need their own this, they need that, they need the other thing. All of us have to have everything, right? Why? What's that? We still think we're castles. That's exactly correct, thank you. We still think that we are single-celled organisms. We still think that we are castles. Now, the market has made us stop thinking that, but unconsciously we still think we're single-celled organisms. MSPs and MSSPs are ways to buy a piece of an IT team and a security team without having to invest in an entire IT in-house IT or security team. Oh, wow. So the market actually works? In this case, I'll actually give it credit. It worked. Most companies, or a significant majority of companies that aren't big, large enterprise, are buying services from MSPs and MSSPs. Does that make sense? It's a statistic that's actually pretty cool. They are trying to be more efficient, and they are doing that by concentrating the talent and the skills into these rent-a-team. Now, that can be good or bad because some of these teams are wonderful and some of these teams suck, but you have to learn how to distinguish between the two. Now, I want to talk about controls for a minute. I've been talking about security, but compliance goes right along with it. Why? Because when I have 20 companies in my value chain, right? I also have, I also have 20 companies that I need to understand how secure and compliant they are. Now, I know somebody here is going, compliance isn't security, and security isn't compliance. And you're right, and you're wrong. You're right because right now, I have no way of knowing whether the framework that you've selected will actually mandate that you are secure. But if I had a framework that I could agree on, and we could have identical controls, or functionally identical controls, I could know that you were being forced via the controls to be secure, couldn't I? Because then we would be doing what we know as apples to apples. It's a really technical term. But the problem is that right now we have controls like CIS, the Center for Internet Security, which, by the way, just got defunded for their MSISAC stuff, which is a shame and absolutely shameful. And we get the CIS benchmarks from them and everything else, right? CIS-1 is asset inventory. It's a pretty straightforward control. You should know what you have. Now, if I switch to CMMC, asset inventory is a tad bit more complex. Just a little bit. Okay? CMMC has, like CIS-1 says, know what assets you have. CMMC says you have controlled unclassified information assets, SPAs, CRMAs, specialized assets. You even have out-of-scope assets. Like, oh my God. Asset inventory is much more complex. These controls are not apples to apples. These are like watermelons to durian, okay? So we need something that gives us, yes, apples to apples comparison. Again, Gemini's awesome, right? It's pretty good looking. I was like, I need to see an apples to apples comparison, and it gave me one. I'm like, that's cool. So how do we do that? Well, pimping my company, we are partnered with the SCF, the Secure Controls Framework. What is that? It is a set of controls that is designed as a master control library. As a master control library, it is a framework agnostic set of controls for security testing, compliance, and resilience. Pretty cool. They've got controls, they've got evidence, they've got risks, they've got threats, it's really well done. Have you ever heard of Compliance Forge? Compliance Forge is the parent company to SCF, just to be clear, okay? And they match it to 254 frameworks. That's a lot. 254 frameworks. Now, they have 1,343 controls. It's gone up a little bit. I haven't gotten the last version yet. And 5,500 assessment objectives. How do I know this? Because I spent a month interpolating all of this and building the Visual Basic and on all the different VBA and all the different pieces to make that spreadsheet really unpleasantly large. And to collate and classify all of the frameworks that they match to and everything else. But at the end of the day, I can measure your company in SCF controls and then go, hey, which frameworks do I match up to? Because I have all of them. Well, 254 of them, which as far as I'm concerned is all of them. Please don't make up another one. And so I can get that apples to apples comparison. This is just a shot of some of the domains inside that. You can see that they're trying to make groups and domains that are fairly broad. Okay, this is a shot from my tool. Business continuity, change management, cloud security, compliance. There's artificial autonomous technologies. That's where the AI controls go. IoT is in there, down below, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea? So it's really nice. So I can do apples to apples comparison. Now, just to be clear, I'm not doing a sales pitch. I don't care if you buy my tool or not. But I'm using it because it's what I know. Wouldn't it be nice, as a first step, if I could make sure that all of my value chain was using an apples-to-apples set of controls, and I could see where they stand on those controls? If I could get visibility into my supply chain. If I could see that, hey, here's my supply chain right here, these 3 people. You're green on on all of your domains. Great. You've got a red on your AAT control, on your AAT domain. I'm not saying which control. I'm not saying what vulnerability. Just at least the domains. And I call you up. I'm like, what's going on? You're like, oh yeah, we've got a patch on a library. It's going to take us about 6 hours. That red will shut off at that point. Oh, I'm good with that. But what does that give me? If I have visibility into it, what do I have? I can price my risk on a dynamic basis. Dynamic risk pricing. Ooh, we're getting all fancy now. That helps. It helps significantly. So is it possible, if I can get my value chain onto apples-to-apples control sets, and I can get them to visualize to me, allow me visualization of a dashboard of at least some aggregate level of that with a green, yellow, red, just a TLP, traffic light protocol system, I get at least insight into how they're doing on an hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis. Why? What is it? I mean, that's cool and all, but because after that, the next step, and this may be a long way away, why don't we share more than just an MSP and an MSSP? Why don't we share a SOC? Because if you afford a SOC, that's a lot of money, and you buy a SOC, that's a lot of money. But if you split it, it's a lot less. And that's the goal. That's my goal. This is what I'm aiming to build, is multicellular organisms that work together. And some of them are specialized, because one cell of this would be the SOC company. And one cell would be the software production company, and one cell would be the hardware production company, and so on and so forth. And how do we transfer the information between? How do we do this? Well, do you remember those SBOMs? We're building HBOM standards now, hardware bill of material. We're building, and I'm going to change the name on this, I'm sorry. We're building FBOMs, which are firmware bill of materials. Shut up. We're working on firmware bill of materials and compliance bill of materials. We're working on languages like OSCAL, which is actually a JSON YAML-based language, to transfer compliance information in a machine-readable format back and forth. That's a NIST thing, by the way. It's an existing thing. I didn't build it. But I'm working with Alan Friedman, who is the head of SBOMs at CISA. He's left CISA now, to build out a framework that SBOMs, HBOMs, FBOMs, CBOMs, et cetera, and there's another CBOM we have to figure out which one to go, which is a cryptography bomb. I need an output, an asset inventory of your cryptography, all the algorithms and all the cipher suites and everything that you use, okay? It's really cool. And so with all of these bills of materials, with all of these apples-to-apples controls, with the visibility, with the ability to fairly trivially share with everybody else, hey, that'd be kind of nice, wouldn't it? Wow, I'm going way faster than I thought. So the idea here is that we're at single-celled security. We have data sharing partners. So we've gone past single-celled. We're at data sharing partners. And we're in supply chain misery right now. My supply chain is god-awful in most of the companies that I deal with. Understand, we are literally going, yeah, we're going to accept that risk for supply chain. Do you know how many of those companies can actually afford accepting that risk? Not very many. But they do it blindly because they don't have another choice to stay in business. This is terrifying. If I can get, and I'm working with Cyturus because they're doing the apples-to-apples control set, which is important. I'm also working on setting up a nonprofit. I've got 2 funding proposals out to get this nonprofit set up to have a methodology and a reference architecture to actually do supply chain visibility and value chain visibility, okay? And if we can, and by the way, we're going to add risk quantification to that, which is the value add there. I've got a risk quantification method that's faster than FAIR. If you're familiar with the FAIR Institute, it's scalable, faster than FAIR, and continuous, which is really cool. If you want to learn more about it, it's actually IEEE/UL Standard 2933. Okay? But one of the authors of that is on my board for a nonprofit, and he's got it embodied in a way that actually works on a scalable and continuous fashion. Really neat stuff. So I can quantify the risk of your partner, who you have visibility into their security, if their AAT domain goes red. What does that risk mean to me in dollars? That's awesome. And so when we get there, we have supply chain visibility with dynamic risk pricing, it will be very simple to realize that these are now multicellular organisms. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
I have a few questions.
I am here for questions because I just finished. Go for it.
Because I see some problems with this.
Okay, I'm happy to listen.
When I hear risk quantification is easy.
It's not easy. No, it's not easy. I didn't say it was, did I say it was easy? I said it was continuous. I said it's simpler. I didn't say it was easy.
Like, risk quantification is very difficult.
Yeah.
And
Takes a lot of work, but once you do it,
And like you have to start with small specific use cases.
That's fine.
And getting people on board with that is extremely difficult. The other problem that I see is.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Yeah.
Other than having BAAs in the healthcare space, you most of the time legally cannot get access to the end party. And I'm wondering if you have some ideas of how you would get around that, because that's
I absolutely legally can get access
that's
all the time.
block right there.
I can legally get access all the time through a BAA. I'm not getting access to your entire list of vulnerabilities. I'm not getting access to your entire list of issues or problems or solutions. What I'm getting access to is a visualization, which is the same visualization you would give me with a questionnaire, okay? Because a questionnaire is a type of visualization. Would you agree?
Yep.
I'm getting the same level of visualization. I'm doing it in a dashboard, okay, with green, yellow, red.
But do you get questionnaires from your end parties?
No, at this point what I do is I
That's what I'm
say, so it's a different thing, but it's the same idea. What I do is I say, hey, I'm not going to give you a questionnaire. I want your compliance management system to output a dashboard for me that does these things. It has these domains, which are backed up by like the SCF or something similar. The SCF is a good place to start though. With a green, yellow, red system. And if you show me that and give me some basic information, which I already have to know so I can work with you. You do my infusion pumps, okay, or whatever. I have to know how many of my infusion pumps you work on. You're on 2,000 of my infusion pumps. You're calculating dosages. I'm making this up, roll with me, okay? The risk of you screwing up is this many dollars. And that risk quantification isn't
that
easy.
part-
I agree.
But I almost think that's easier than getting access to your end party.
Okay, when you say getting access,
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying logging in.
No, I know, and I'm just saying getting access to any data about that end party, other than you might get a.
So do you know how United Health, do you know how, you're in healthcare obviously? Maybe? Have been. Do you know how High Trust got started?
Yeah,
How?
there was a bunch of people complaining about all the different types of standards and frameworks
Wrong.
out there.
It was United Healthcare mandating that anybody that wanted to work with them had to be High Trust certified because they happened to own the High Trust Institute. I'll probably get sued for that, just to be clear. But
But I can see somebody throwing a heavy around like that on that one.
they threw a heavy around and said, we own the High Trust Institute. You want to work with us? You've got to be High Trust certified. I think the High Trust is a scam because of that, to be honest with you. But what I want to do is make it basically a choice. If you want to be part of my value chain, I need to be able to see these things. I'm not going to dig down, but I need to see at least a surface level view of all of your potential risk categories.
I will say though, like, standardizing or having some way to translate the framework so that that's unified would be powerful.
Isn't it
So that
nice? It's a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is all by itself.
We're working on that now at my company, pimping them again.
The other thing that I was gonna just kind of ask, and something that, like, I've toyed around with is asking for specific metrics
From the third party?
from the third party.
Okay, what kind of metrics?
So each one is specific because you have to kind of think about what they're delivering as part
Yes.
of that.
Okay.
Right? And so when you think about what they're delivering and where it falls in like a shared responsibility model,
right?
that's kind of the only level that I'm at right now. It's like,
So anything that I get from a third party can be related into a bill of materials of some sort, whether it's a data bill of materials, a hardware bill of materials, a software bill of materials, whatever, okay? So I get these things from this third party.
Yep.
Cool.
That makes sense.
I get these things from this third party. I have metrics that say that they should be no lower than this and no higher than this. As long as they're between there, we're green. If they go a little bit outside, they're orange. If they go way outside, or yellow rather, if they go way outside, we're red, okay?
And that part.
That's the kind of thing we're talking about.
Yeah,
That's
totally-
it.
I think it totally makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I have to throw a few, you know.
If I can't handle people throwing bombs at me, I shouldn't be up here, number one. And number two, we are only stronger by people questioning and asking these questions. Doesn't bother me at all. My dad was a college professor for 42 years. He told me if you find something your teacher did wrong and they don't take it well, they're not a good teacher. So please, ask anything you want to ask. It never bothers me. Well, there are some questions you could ask, but those are the personal ones. Anyway. Other questions, comments, wisecracks, talk to me.
Putting on my GRC student hat here for this question.
Rock and roll.
I appreciate, in the space of compliance audit, you have the NIST cybersecurity framework and all that other jazz.
Yes.
Sticking with the NIST for the scope of this question, you're introducing SCF. Does SCF also have a risk assessment side to them, or are they strictly compliance and audit?
So they have a catalog of risks and a catalog of threats, which just like the master control set is a master catalog of possible risks and a master catalog of possible threats. And so you attach a risk, a threat, a policy. They also have SOP lists and packages and things like that if you don't have any. Obviously you can use your own, that's fine. So the idea here is we have a policy, a risk, and a control, and from that I can tell you any incidents that can happen, okay? Because an incident is a combination of a policy, a risk, and a control,
Right.
basically, or where they're gone wrong, if you will. Now, in terms of risk assessments, the idea here is that you're going to do your threat modeling. You're then going to do your risk assessment based on the threats, as well as some specifics about your company. They do not perform risk assessments. They have the catalog of risks that are linked, already directly linked. They have the cross mappings to the controls. So if this is a control that's valid and relevant to you, and you do not have this control, do not perform this control, do not whatever, then the attached risk is in your risk register.
And they have all that in their SCF?
That's all done. Between SCF and Cyturus, that's all done.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
So this is kind of a left turn on the subject that I hadn't had a chance to ask you about it. So when we met during CyberCon at Marshall last spring,
Mhm.
you and Kevin Johnson were talking about maybe
OpenSBK. OpenSBK. Kevin has been a little bit too busy. He's getting married in a month and a half, and he's been, it's your fault? No, it's really my fault, to be honest with you,
It's all of our fault.
because we're the ones that took them all out, and I went, Kevin, and this is a true story, and I love Kevin Johnson so much. He is like one of the nicest people in the entire world, and I went, Kevin, she wants you, and if you screw this up, I'm going to kill you. And he went, oh, classic nerd, okay? I love him, classic nerd. And it was like, you did realize that. He's like, well, I thought she was flirting a little. Just shut up. Okay. So yeah, it's all of our faults. But he's getting married and
You forgot the second part of that. You looked at her and said, "You heard him, I'll kill you."
I wasn't going to be rude. But yeah, I said that to her because he's one of my closest friends and I adore him. And if she hurts him, I'll kill her. And they live in Florida. There's gators everywhere. I don't have to be metaphorical. Anyway, I used to live in Louisiana. 2 rolls of chain link and some padlocks. The crabs will eat them. It's no big deal. Never mind. Okay, so we want to, so OpenSBK is the idea that we can change the definitions and define all of the terms that we use to be apples to apples terminology. That will, in my dream of dreams, be part of this nonprofit for people to contribute to those. And then we will have chapter owners, and this is part of what Kevin has decided, that we will have chapter owners. So just as we had the domains in SCF, these domains we'll have a chapter in SBK, and we'll have more than just this, but this is a starting point. So we'll have an artificial and autonomous technologies chapter in OpenSBK, and then we'll have terms in there that we will define. And you may be the chapter owner for AAT. And so somebody will go, I'd suggest this term, and you and your group of people in the AAT domain will decide whether to merge it. Sounds like GitHub, doesn't it? That's right. We'll decide whether to merge it or not. Okay, that kind of thing. It's more complex than that, but the idea is I am a security person at heart, but I'm also a sysadmin, and I like things orderly. And so I want the definitions to be the same. Acronym collisions annoy the crap out of me. And when I worked at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia and they told me that SMTP stood for the Server Migration and Transition Project, I went, no, it doesn't. And so I want definitions that we can all use. I want systems we can all use. I want visibility into those systems that we can all trust. That's the point. More questions? Yes?
What size companies is this serving? Is there a size company that's too low, like maybe a roofing company or a tree service company for this kind of software?
So a tree service company, we've been using CMMC. I'm one of the people that helped write it, and so it's sort of where I live. There's 3 levels in CMMC. There's the ones that handle only contract information, and our literal use cases for that were the people that mow the lawn on base, and the people that stock the soda machine and the soda machines in the commissary and such. And they're going to need to do little bits of things depending on the framework that they're under. Okay, if they're a CMMC company, a Department of Defense contract, Department of Defense, thank you. A DoD contractor, then they're going to have to do a level 1. Now, can they do a certification? Yes. Can they do a self-assessment? Yes. Are they going to need to have all these systems and everything? Probably not. Okay, their risk is so minuscule. Okay, there's going to be thresholds. But a level 2 company that handles CUI, controlled unclassified information, that handles enough information to be interesting, yes, they're going to be part of this.
Okay.
Now, are the standards, are the controls scalable? Absolutely. I can put somebody in this system, and I can say, what do you do? And out of 7,500 controls and assessment objectives, they can tell me we do that. I'm like, okay, cool, that's it. That's all. They need to do what they need to do. The nice thing is, let me explain it this way. I do HIPAA. Great. Okay. Hey, how am I on SOC 2? Well, there's SOC 2. You've already got 50, 60, 70% of SOC 2. All you need is this. This is your gap. That's it.
You have the crosswalks in there?
There are. These are the frameworks. This framework, whichever one it is, these are the numbers for this control. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the crosswalks for 254 frameworks. Every single one. Every number, every list, every piece.
Well, that brings up an interesting question in my mind because I think about this. This is an example I use all the time.
Sure.
You have somebody that you buy your toilet paper from.
I do. Costco.
Okay, right? So that's Costco's your vendor. Well, all of a sudden, they keep coming in, they're doing such a fantastic job stocking up your toilet paper. Now they have a mobile app, and you can flush the toilet with your mobile app whenever
Right.
you want, right? So now that landscape has changed a little bit, and a lot of times the contracts that go with those changes
Don't change.
don't get
Right.
changed.
So let's talk about that for a second, because that's a great point. Because how many companies had I'll go back to Salesforce. Used Salesforce. Salesforce popped open an AI window for you, said, would you like to feed your customer data into the AI? I didn't do a vendor risk management on AI in Salesforce. I just did a vendor risk management on Salesforce as a CRM. That has changed the essential nature of what I do with them. Same idea, right? We're on the same page? Okay, yeah. That has changed the essential nature of what they do for me, what I do with them, where my data goes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the contract hasn't changed. The vendor risk management isn't being updated. This is going to say, if all of a sudden Salesforce, one of my vendors goes, hey, we're doing AI now, what that should do is change and this is a long-term piece right here, just to be clear. What this is going to do is going to change the data flow diagram, the asset inventory, and all the different supporting documentation. When the supporting documentation changes, it's going to trigger a system that's going to go, whoa, You have made a significant change in what you do, and the policies and controls that are relevant to you are now changed. So we need to reassess.
I would add to that, because that's how we function at a global enterprise, right?
Right.
So Salesforce team makes a change.
Right.
That goes through change review.
It should, yes.
It should, well, it should.
But that business unit doesn't talk to that business unit, so.
If they don't, and I find out about it, well, then that's one set of hell to pay. On the other hand, if they do go through change control, then we at least get the opportunity. A lot of
Yeah.
times we don't even get the
Will things slip through the cracks? Absolutely. Should they? Absolutely not.
I
But
think one of the most powerful things that I have found over the years that kind of is just at least getting the business to articulate what goes into their BIA every year. That's the only way I can catch that stuff.
also, here's the other deal. If you as the vendor change what you do, your vulnerability scans, your exploitability scans, your asset inventory scans, your information inventory discovery scans will change. It may not add more vulnerabilities, but some number of how many systems I'm checking ticks up. I don't really care about vulnerabilities. In all seriousness, I don't care about vulnerabilities. I care about deltas. I care about if it changes, something happened. Did you spin up a new server? Yeah, we spun up a new server. It's following the image. We've done all the hardening. Great, just wanted to check. You didn't put in a change management ticket, but I just wanted to check. All of a sudden we have 10 new vulnerabilities. Did you change anything? No. What do you mean? No, we didn't change anything. Then why do we have 10 new vulnerabilities? I don't know. Did something update and we didn't know about it? Did somebody do something bad and they may not be one of our people? Can you say malicious actor? I knew you could. Okay? I care about deltas. Unexplained change is evil, bad, and scary. When I have all of these scans and I'm feeding them into those systems that put up that tick, 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 that red, yellow, and green systems, that should tick off a red. And then I go, hey, what happened to my vendor? And they go, huh? You're red on your asset inventory. I don't know why. If you don't know why, we got some problems. Let's go check this out. That's what should happen. Is that now? No, that's long term. Let's be honest, that's long term. But that's the goal. Does that make sense? Great question, by the way. Love that question. You have a question. Or you're totally bored. Yeah.
You have kids growing up, they say, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a pilot. I imagine it's very low down the list that I want to get so deep into risk compliance that I write the standard. And you're so enthusiastic about this, there's almost a physical force coming out of you.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be rude.
What got you into it?
I started in IT. I was literally on the phones at the help desk, and you can tell how old I am because I did this, not this. Okay? I started on the phones in 1990. And actually, I started earlier. My father, I said, was a college professor. He's also an expert witness, does accident reconstruction. And I've been reading his technical reports and grading his college exams for his students since I was 6 years old. Okay? So to me, things have to be done properly. Add that to ADHD and being a slob, and it's really weird in my head. But in IT, I was so bound by what we had done before, the traditions, if you will. And I was so bound by what my boss would allow me to do. I'm like, all right, I'm not a boss. I can't do this stuff. I can only do what they let me do. And then I became a boss, and I started running help desks. And I was the guy, I worked for a consulting firm in New York, and I was the guy that they're like, we have no idea what our salesman just sold. Josh, go figure it out. I would go to the client and be like, just so I can hear it from you, I want to understand. Can you tell me what you need? Because I want to make sure I understand properly. And I go, oh, okay. And I'd be like, I need to go to the bathroom. I need 3 S400 guys. I need 2 programmers that can do VB. And literally I'd have them, and I'd keep taking notes until they got there, okay? And I realized that I was bound at that point by the budgets. And I moved into security, and this was after I took a side jaunt as a police officer down in Louisiana. It's a weird story. I was a police officer down in Louisiana for Katrina and came back up to New Jersey, where I grew up. and moved into security almost immediately. And in security, I was able to do so much good. I really was. I did a lot of digital forensics, incident response. I did a little tiny bit of pen testing. I did some sales engineering and solution engineering where I was really able to help people fix things. You know what I mean? Like when you fly to a client and build or fix something, I was there. You know what I mean? And I did good stuff, and I was really proud of what I did because I made people's jobs work. And then I realized that budgets were crumbling for security. And I'm like, this sucks. And I had no way to build budgets, to push budgets, to drive budgets. And my wife, at the time was my girlfriend, was in compliance for a hosting company. She did all their SOC 2, she did all, for 6 data centers, she did their SOC 2 survey or assessments, she did everything. And she worked with all the customers who were everything from HIPAA to state government to you name it, you know what I mean? And when she said, you have to do this because here's the clause in the framework that says you have to, do you know what happened? Budget magically appeared. And I said, wow, this compliance thing is pretty good. And she's like, I'll teach you. If you can read, you can do compliance. She's wrong, you have to be able to type as well. So I moved into compliance, and I honestly was able to drive budget so much better than I ever was when I was in security. Like, wow, difference. And then I said, this is cool, and I can make companies do better in security and be more compliant, and I can actually make the world safer. And it sounds silly when I say it, but it drives me. And then I realized that the standards are annoyingly bad. And I had a 20-year feud with a friend about PCI. But anyway, I said I want to help write them and make them better because I think I can do that. Now, there's a relevant XKCD, which is where you get, it's 15 competing standards. We need to write a standard that encompasses them all. There's now 16 competing standards. But I'm really working to make it better. And yeah, I'm very enthused about it because this is how I'm going to change the world. As strange and silly as that sounds, this is going to be one of my legacies. I want people to be able to rate the risk and not live in fear of the risk. I want CISOs to not be the designated scapegoat as their actual job title. I want them to be in charge of actual risk that they can quantify and understand and point to compliance as their friend to help them out against the board or with the board. That's what I want as my legacy. Thank you. And if you want to get in touch with me, there's my email, my phone number. That's my phone number. There's my signal, whatever you need, yell, okay? And if anybody wants the slides, I'll send them to you. I don't care. Nothing on here is secret.